time though. So
I know it was a regular one.
Welcome backish to an installment of a new segment called Battle of the Ballads Music. We are going to be talking a lot of different stuff. Actually, no, out of the panel music. It's like we didn't just talk about this, and I'm not going to edit that out because A, I don't know how to edit, and B, fuck it. So
There's a master class for editing.
Yeah, I'm just a guy with a short attention span. So this is out of the panel music, and what we're going to be doing is many different things as we move forward. But this time, we're going to visit the '90s in a different way. Joseph and Gregory came up with a fun idea to kind of get everybody at home involved.
Oh, don't blame me for this. This was all Joe.
Well, Joe came up with it, but also to explore stuff that a lot of people probably didn't listen to, and for better or for worse. And Joe, I'm going to hand it over to you. Just kind of break it down for the folks at home. What are we going to be doing this time around?
Yeah, so the idea was completely ripped off from a Facebook page I now follow. Gregory and I are in a media-based group on Facebook called Be Kind, Please Rewind. And the admin there had posted a Facebook page that does best album of the decade. And theirs is a fairly comprehensive process. The people who follow the page vote on like 512 albums, and then they have like this massive tournament. And I thought that was too much work. So to kind of adhere to the spirit of album debates, I thought we would start with an already compiled list of the quote unquote best albums of the 90s, randomize those, put them into a bracket, and then the three of us would discuss those matchups and talk about these albums and why we like or dislike one over the other. And then once we've finished discussing those matchups, pitch it to the audience for them to vote on it. So essentially, we are listening through the Rolling Stone top 100 albums of the 90s, discussing those in a tournament style, but we are not making any of the decisions on which album's the better one in each matchup. It's going to be a fan vote. Right? Huh?
That's for the folks at home to do.
Yeah. And so they can either listen to our comments, maybe we have some insights, or maybe we bring up some points that they didn't think about, or they go and they listen to the album from beginning to end as well, and they follow along with us, mention in the comments what things we've missed, reasons they liked or disliked things. If you're a Moby fan, I already apologized for that matchup because I am going to shit on that album over and over again. But yeah, like that's basically it. We'll post the bracket each week, what the matchups are, so that viewers, if they want to play along, then they can join us on the journey. And then after each episode, we'll post the actual brackets and let people vote on them. And with that, each week, I think the way it'll go, or the way it will work the best, is with I don't know why I do this, as if I have enough space to map things out in front of me on this podcast. But each week when we post the voting, it would be accompanied by the next week's matchups as well. So you're voting and you're getting the matchups for the next one if you want to listen along.
And now, where are they going to find these matchups, the bracket?
I created it on, I think, Bracketology.
Cool.
We can post, when this goes up, we can post the list. It hasn't been published as a tournament, so you can't vote on any of those matchups, but you can kind of view what the matchups are, where they're coming. And the way I have it set up, if I go ahead and pull it up real quick so that I can remember.
But at one point, it will go live where they do vote.
I don't think we're going to do it that way, just because I'm not sure how to lock down
just a portion of the bracket.
Yeah. So what I think we'll do is we'll have to probably come up with somewhere else to place the somewhere else to do the tournament, like maybe on a Survey Monkey or something like that.
Okay.
And then I will just go in and manually update the actual bracket, because I think that'll end up working best, just because, as Gregory said, I don't know how to lock down just like three matchups at a time.
So every Friday, then folks should be looking for a survey for that bracket week, and we're gonna do, what was it? Were we doing 4 or 6 albums?
I think we'll probably do, at least for the first round, because there are 34 matchups.
Okay.
For the first round only. So if we did only 2 matchups each week, we're looking at this tournament taking an entire year probably, once we do subsequent rounds, which again, I don't mind doing. We're probably going to be doing this in over a year anyway. So whether it's this topic or another topic, I don't mind, but I'm thinking probably 3 matchups at least for the first round.
Okay.
And
So
then
3 matchups. So basically 6 albums for the first week, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And can I share my screen if you're the host of this? Yes, I can. Nope.
Yeah, you can.
Have to. Okay. Because let's just do this just to give them a quick taste of the way I did it. So here you'll at home, you should be able to see the brackets. So the way I've got it labeled is where Rolling Stone had them ranked. So Sublime was the 25th ranked on their list. But again, I put them in a random, like a randomizer. And so they're actually on this one, the 64th seed, up against Tupac's All Eyes on Me, which was 50th for Rolling Stone. And this is a little preview for the first 3 matchups. We'll probably start here because it's at the top of the list. Obviously 100 doesn't fit evenly into any bracket style at all. So there were a number of things that got a first round bye. That was my whole reason for randomizing it. So it wasn't like, hey, 3 Nirvana albums and 2 other, like, they automatically get buys. So
an album that probably wouldn't have made it past the first round got themselves a bye in the first round.
Are you saying Bell and Sebastian wasn't going to clear the first round with us?
I'm saying that album was complete and absolute trash.
Listen, the internet loves Bell and Sebastian, even if the 3 of us do not.
So
honestly
actually, I can't even think of a single person in my life or in my network that enjoys Bell and Sebastian.
I was on a web board, and that web board fucking loves Bell and Sebastian.
I could honestly not tell you a thing about that album. I've never heard it, and I couldn't name a single Bell and Sebastian song for you.
So Joe, pull that back up real quick.
You want me to pull it back up?
Yep.
Okay.
Because what we're going to do is, so I'm going to share the video, obviously. So folks watching this video has been shared because you're watching it. Come Friday, I'm going to throw up, actually probably Thursday this week to give people more time to kind of get in the swing and listen to stuff. I'm going to throw up this bracket here. So our first albums are going to be Sublime versus Tupac, All Eyes on Me, Bob Dylan, Time Out. I forget what the rest of it is. Bruce.
You can zoom in on just that. So Time Out of Mind, Bob Dylan versus Bruce Springsteen, the ghost of something.
Tom Jones.
And then Depeche Mode, Violator versus Nirvana, Nevermind. And so those are going to be the albums that we are listening to during that time.
Correct.
And so that's gonna be the first week. So folks, you're going to be voting on, and this will be on Survey Monkey, which of those 6 albums you like. So I think what I'll do is I'll post the bracket actually right after this video goes up, and then I'll post the survey on Friday. That way you have more time to listen to the albums, things like that. And we have some more results to go with as we move into our first episode, actually going through the stuff on Tuesday. Does that sound good to you guys?
Sounds good to me.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I've already started.
I haven't started. I know you two have both started listening to the albums on the list. I mean, I've listened to quite a few of the albums on the list in the past, but I'm not going to start listening to the albums until this week when we start. So I'll listen to those 6. My goal is to listen to each album twice and then do some research, because I'm going to pick on Moby here because Joe already did. But like, why the hell is Moby the 100th best album of the 90s in Rolling Stones? Like, I'm curious. So I'm going to do some research and I'm going to try and guess, like as Dan pointed out in our chat earlier, not a lot of critics on this. So it's mostly like the editors. So this was definitely like Rolling Stone trying to drive some views. And I don't even know what year it came out because that'll make a difference, I think, too.
I'm also going to post with all this, and probably in the video here is a link to the Rolling Stone list, so that folks can also see that, and because it has some commentary there as well. But I also want folks to note that I think the highest critic number of votes on one was 9. So didn't you make the double digit critics ranking this? So I mean, you could have, be at your local dive bar, puffing on a vape pen or something like that. And you're like, well, this album wins. So it's interesting how they came up with it. There are some takes on it. I started reading through those, which is when I noticed how many critics it was. And Greg is right in terms of a lot of it depended on the year it came out, especially with like what genres were dominating. So if you notice a lot, it's very genre based. So whatever genre wasn't dominating, they put that in there to shine a spotlight on it in a way. So which is why some of those squeak through. So it's going to be interesting. I think this is more in line with a lot of our real music lovers as opposed to the Battle of the Ballads stuff, simply because A, this era of music, but B, I know that we have a big network of music lovers, just genuine music fans. And so there's every genre is represented on here. It's not us picking songs for them to listen to. It's
is every genre on there?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe reggae is like the only one missing. But
I mean, every like core genre.
I know like Yanni's not on there, but I mean, that's to be expected.
Yeah.
So I think that that's going to have a good appeal. And so I'm going to get the tags ready. I'm going to tag a lot of people that I know are constantly listening to music to kind of take this journey with us too. It's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of re-listens. I think I've now listened to about 60% of the albums on here, some reluctantly, but for the love of the project, I did so. And I think we're gonna have a lot of fun with this. And I think the folks at home are too, especially Ellen. If you join us in this, there's gonna be a lot that you had never heard. So you'll be hearing it for the first time. And I'm curious on your thoughts of that too.
So this list was published in 2019.
Yep.
Okay.
So video will go up along with the Rolling Stone article. Bracket will go up, and then survey will go up. So every Friday the survey will come out. I think we'll put the bracket up every Wednesday or Thursday, and we'll go from there.
Yeah,
a lot of this sounds more complicated than it is, and you're watching us flesh this out as you witness it. So if you have any suggestions on how to do it a bit differently, we're open to that as well.
Yeah, the viewers at home, this will probably run a lot smoother because they're, like you said, they're hearing us talk through the process, but for them, it's just going to be, oh, and here's the video in the bracket.
Yeah,
great.
So yeah, I don't know why it seems so complicated. It's a tournament. We are discussing the entries in matchups in a tournament and asking you to vote on them. That's it.
And so it's gonna be nice and succinct. I think having that few selections on it's gonna work. Did get a lot of votes by Twitter last time, so I think I'm gonna keep them on Twitter as well. So Twitter, Facebook, also links on IG. I hit enough views or something like that where I'm allowed to post links now. So
interesting.
So that's cool. And,
I didn't know that was a restriction on Instagram.
I don't know. Am I an influencer now? So
yeah, no, the links on Twitter thing is on Instagram is a big thing for a lot of Instagram influencers.
A dance fluencer, you mean?
Busting out my sweet move.
Snap. I follow a lot of ultimate players on or disc golf players on Instagram, so only some of them get links.
So folks, join in on this fun. It is going to be a lot of fun. I 2 albums I listened to today. I'm like, Jesus Christ. But that's going to be part of the fun discussion too, of why the hell are these albums on here. But there's also a lot of deep tracks on some of these albums that folks may not have heard, because of radio play, and especially because of age. If you know the singles, but you don't know the albums, this is a good time to listen to those albums, especially. I don't want to sway people too much, but there's a lot of Nirvana tracks that never made the waves that are way better than any of the Nirvana tracks that got radio play. So dig in, check it out. I'm sad that one of my probably top 50 albums has to eliminate another one of my top 50 albums in week 1, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles. So
and
fantastic voyage.
And of course, we're using the Rolling Stones 50 or 100 greatest albums but we do not have 100 albums on this. We did eliminate just one, Joe?
2.
We eliminated 2 for reasons of the artist being a terrible person. So
yep.
So it's actually going to be
98.
98, but I
So
think
we've already
we can all
done the
just
work for you. We've eliminated 2 already. That's less you got to do a survey on.
Yeah, I think if you are one who's going to go through the list and follow, you'll pretty much figure out, I think, going through the list who we eliminated. So thankfully, I think if we'd done the best of the 2000s, we would have had to throw off a lot more.
And if we were
I
to
think
do
of
this in
the-
about 10 years, we'd probably have to throw out a lot more too.
Well, I think between that, well, yeah, that's a good point. Give it time, and there's going to be more tossed out too.
Yeah.
But also, I think if we did the 80s, there's probably quite a few that would get tossed out as well.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting to a point where we can just listen to Carly Rae and that's going to be it. But
I mean, yeah.
No, Jens, I'm really excited about this. It's new, it's different type of research, different type of homework, and it really does reach the true, genuine music lover. It's not us just sharing a list of songs. It's one that the folks who get paid to evaluate music are saying folks should listen to, and we're gonna discuss that.
Now, would you say this list is going to appeal to the elder millennial?
Yes and no. There's just some stuff on here that I don't think anybody outside of Rolling Stone would have put on.
No, that is true. I say this because my biggest thing about a festival you're really looking excited for, Dan, when we were young festival, is the marketing of it being, and I don't think I've ever seen them market it, but like news outlets are marketing this as for elder millennials. And as an elder millennial, I don't give a shit about half the bands, including the headliners. So it kind of poor marketing, but someone in this panel is going to the newly announced day 3 of this festival.
Was that the one with Paramore supposedly?
Supposedly, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, speaking of that, so we had a conversation today on chat. Somebody here is extra skeptical and doesn't think it's happening at all. I'm skeptical, of course, but I'm willing to risk the money because I have the expendable income for this specific purpose, and it's worth the risk because if it does happen, I'm super excited to see these bands. But the reason I think this is different than Firefest, which a lot of people are comparing it to, is that those were not like Firefest wasn't really being advertised directly by the bands involved or supposedly involved in Firefest. Those were celebrities being paid to promote Firefest, and that's different. And so one of the things I mentioned in that chat with Gregory and Dan earlier was that I've been seeing a lot of the actual bands associated with this publicizing their involvement in it and expressing their excitement to play it. And since I mentioned that in the chat, I started noting the bands I actively follow on Facebook or Twitter who have been talking about it. And since about, what was that, 2 o'clock this afternoon, 1 o'clock this afternoon, I noticed A Day to Remember talking about it. Jimmy Eat World posted about it. The Used, Meet Me at the Altar posted on multiple outlets about it. Paramore, My Chemical Romance, Taking Back Sunday, and Berlin, who I didn't even realize was going to be there until they tweeted about it, and Red Jumpsuit Apparatus have all talked about their involvement in it. And so honestly, even if those bands only show up, it's worth the money to me.
So, well, and one of the things, like, sorry, Dan, Thursday I follow on Facebook, and they were the first ones I saw of the shocked they were going to be there thing. And I read it as a joke. And it turns out that what they're saying is a lot of these bands were joking on how quickly this like caught fire, about because Thursdays is, oh, apparently we're playing at the When We Were Young Fest. We'll see you in October. And that was kind of the nature of it. And it just seemed like all these bands were joking about how it came, but they became spun in like these bands didn't know they were playing. And that's been rebuked on the internet about them not knowing they're playing. And the other difference between this and Fire Festival is Fire Festival was privately financed by one person. Now, Live Nation is not the best company in the world, but they are a company who's been doing this for forever. I've seen a number of artists who will not be there defending Live Nation events that, yes, they've had problems, but they've never had problems at the Live Nation themselves. So it's backed by Live Nation. And yes, Live Nation doesn't give refunds, But like that's a bullshit complaint because what concert venues or companies do give refunds? The
So
answer is
here's,
none of them.
I have an attorney friend, which is actually what really got my skepticism running. Because when I first heard about it, I'm like, oh, cool, whatever. But when he looked through the actual legal contract of it all and how there is no support whatsoever for the buyer, it's not your typical concert. They actually changed their wording and how their agreement was done. And so he said he'd be curious to see the actual agreements with the bands because obviously they get paid regardless. And notably, many of these bands, including My Chemical Romance, have canceled many tours because of what's going on, and they have no recourse for pulling out of this too. So sure, you can buy tickets to this festival. Maybe you'll get a few bands, but there's no recourse for the band's not showing up for what you spend. And the loopholes that are in there aren't typical for events or venues. And so that's where it's if you start off that shady from the jump, it's it seems like a bit of a farce, or yeah, we'll put this together and expect it not to happen. And whatever you get kind of like the cheese sandwiches at Fyre Fest. So for those really excited about it, I genuinely hope it happens for you.
I'd be interested if
Very
a lot of the wording changes in the legalese that they've changed in these agreements has to do more with protecting themselves after Astro World and the shit that happened there. They're being sued by how many different ways coming out of that event. So I'm wondering how much of that is just to protect themselves in the case something happens.
I asked him that too, but he works solely in entertainment, so it's not like it's like normal lawyer stuff. Like this is the stuff he does, and
Sure.
He actually works on the bad side, the one we wouldn't want to work with. He is not with Live Nation, but another ticket vendor. So my enemy usually, but he's a friend, and he just does their legal shit. And so he was saying the way that it's all written, like when you actually read through it, it's quite odd. Even given that, and he said the timing of it is right when all these legal fees are mounting up and all this other stuff, so they can have a quick turnaround and then, a Houdini. So especially to put that together and then have it take place so quickly after, especially with the touring and all this other stuff, there's just a lot of logistics that don't add up.
Well, I'd be more skeptical if this was the first one, as Joe mentioned in our chat. Like, there's actually, I think, 3 bands. I don't remember how many I told you, Joe, but there's 3 bands that are playing this year that played the first one in 2017. And there's actually supposed to be one right before the pandemic, but they canceled even the organizing it because of the pandemic. So this is something like the organizers have been working on and have done before. So to me, like, if you've had 1 year of a successful festival where Morrissey was your headliner, not that Morrissey's the greatest guy in the world, but hilarious that Morrissey was the headliner for the first one of this, and like Newfound Glory played the first one. So it's like not bands that you'd expect to just show up for it. And I think this one too, like the number of the younger bands and like the more reputable bands who have played things for decades at this point, like the starting lineup playing in this band, like, or this event. So I'd be more skeptical if they hadn't been anywhere, but these promoters don't want their festival to be completely tainted by the fact that this is the second one they're going to have and the third one they've tried to and had to cancel for real reasons before. So it would be, now if it was just Live Nation creating this festival out of nowhere, then I'd be super more skeptical, but I'm like slightly to mildly skeptical, but not overly concerned. I think Joe's going to have a good time when he goes there. So
I'm like I said, I'm healthily skeptical about the whole thing, but I'm also in a kind of a privileged position to be able to look at this, say, yeah, there are some things about this that have me a little bit nervous, but based on the reaction I've seen from the bands themselves, I feel a little bit more comfortable, and I'm in a position where if it doesn't happen, if it is kind of a scam, I feel like this is one of those things I feel comfortable personally betting my money on, because I also went into it not expecting all 63 bands to show up. I've been to too many festivals where a handful of bands have had to drop out anyway, just for other reasons. And even if we only got 55 or 50 of these bands, I'd still be so excited because this lineup is insane for me.
Here's my hope. I hope it happens. I hope everybody has a blast. I hope nobody gets screwed out of money. Like I said, I'll happily eat my words and buy you dinner if it all goes through as planned.
Well, take back the screwed out of money, because part of the whole festival experience is you're getting screwed out of money at a festival, but like,
That's true.
you
Festivals
know
are
that
generally
going
expensive.
into it, like,
Except
Eh.
Warped Tour. Warped Tour was never actually that expensive. I think when
No, it
we
wasn't.
went,
I actually saw a comment that because they were celebrating these bands and stuff like that, and somebody did comment on Twitter like Warped Tour would because they're calling it like Warped Tour and crack. And so he's like Warped Tour would never charge these prices.
yeah, but Warped Tour also didn't have as many headliners.
You say that, but as somebody who went to the original Warped Tours, like they were all headliners. It was a fucking banger. I mean, I even saw Eminem at a Warped Tour. Like it was crazy.
Yeah, and I
Warped Tour
get that.
constantly had to
but-
like reconfigure their lineup. The other thing Warped Tour really did was they were good at having local bands at every stop too. So
Yeah. When
You
Punk
can't
went
do that
over
with
top,
thing,
that's
right?
when Warped Tour kind of really changed. But
Warped Tour really had about 3 stages worth of big bands. And then they also the mornings were often filled with filler bands. And that's how most festivals go. That's just something when we were young has just foregone. They're like, let's not worry about this. Which
another reason to be
does
skeptical.
suck. Yeah, and that sucks in some ways, right? Because like going into this, when I saw that poster and I saw like the bands advertised to be there, my first reaction, of course, is, well, I'm not going to be able to see them all. And so what I'm hoping, or what I would like to see, I doubt they're going to do it, but Kaboo each year in San Diego, they have a companion app that goes along with the festival that has, you can go through and you can set your preferences on which bands you want to see. And then it auto generates a calendar for you so that you can, and it has it split out by stage. So you're like, okay, so I'm going to see Melissa Etheridge at this stage. My next one, I have to make it to this stage for this person. And I loved that was automated. They just built you a calendar based on the bands you selected.
And that's how most festivals work. I know Governor's Ball did it, Bonnaroo did it, Warped Tour's done it. So that is how most of these big festivals work. Yet with Bonnaroo, I mean, if you want to talk about not being able to see anyone, Bonnaroo's like heavy lineup was the last 2 to 3 hours of a Saturday night and then Sunday. So like at one point there were 3 bands I wanted to see playing like overlapping by 15 minutes at Bonnaroo, and I'm like, shit, I only wanted to see a third of the lineup, and they're all playing on Sunday and at the same time. So that's just the nature of a festival. Like you see these names and then you see the lineup and realize, shit, I may have not paid for this if I did get to see all these people. Like,
all right,
so
gents,
there's some always nature to it, but yeah.
So I hope it's a blast. I hope it happens. If not, don't be surprised. Now we have some albums for you to listen to. They will be posted this week. Dive in and enjoy, folks. Really, it's going to be quite a journey. I actually rediscovered some love that I had for certain albums through this process as well, and stuff I forgot about that I even missed during Battle of the Ballads for the 90s. So that was kind of cool. And actually one of those albums is featured in this first round. So Joe, thanks for coming up with the idea, because I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks to random Facebook page that I blatantly ripped off their idea, and thanks to Allison Yance for posting it in the media group.
And thanks for organizing the bracket as well, because
yeah, I can't do
it
that
would have
shit.
never gotten done if I did it.
And I don't know how to use computers. So any plugs before we leave the viewers with a new task?
Find a local show and support a band if you can, safely, of course, if you can do it safely.
Yeah, the Regrets, one of the bands I've talked about here a lot, they're currently touring right now for however long this pandemic lets them. So go see them.
Did you say they're going to be at Black Sheep?
They're at Black Sheep tonight, actually.
Oh,
So I was hoping I'd get a couple more weeks so I'd get some more paychecks in to see them, but no, they're out right now. So go check out them. There's I mean, as people start, I know concerts have been start and stops, but yeah, Joe's right. Go see some local shows, because local bands have probably been playing the whole time, and they definitely need your help. So,
and on the theme of local, whether you're comfortable eating in or taking out, support your local restaurants. They are hurting. The cost of goods right now is quite difficult to maintain, especially while trying to keep prices down so that it's affordable for you to actually eat there. So I know in my house, we try to do it once a week with a different local restaurant every week. just to show some love. And then take it a step further, give them a Google review, give them a Facebook review, whatever they're on, and share some love that way too. And I never realized it. I used to do that stuff I still do that stuff on Google, and all of a sudden I'm getting like asked to do this stuff. And that's not a brag on me. It just shows how far it goes. I think I'm at something like 30,000 views of my food reviews for local restaurants, which means that it's helping local businesses. So eat out, give them a review, give them a shout out. And especially this time of year, it's brutal. So
Well, and to
local.
piggyback that off that, the supplies are going up for restaurants in a crazy way, but also they can't necessarily get what they normally get.
Yep.
Being the guy who stocks the coolers and freezers and dry goods at a restaurant, I can tell you that we sell a shit ton of chicken, and it's usually always fresh. Like, we don't have frozen chicken ever. But right now, if our distributor sends us frozen chicken, I have to accept it, whereas I used to reject it, because I think the other day we got 4 cases of chicken instead of the 20 we were supposed to get. It was 2 cases of wings, 2 cases of breast. And frozen chicken is fine for at home, but when you're trying to do like these gourmet meals or restaurant quality meals, frozen chicken just doesn't work the same, and it's never going to be the same brand you're looking for. So they have to thaw it, then they have to put it back in the cooler. There's a lot to go into getting frozen food when you're not used to. So if the quality is not quite what you'd expected when you've been there before, or you've only ever gone there during a pandemic and it was slightly less than what you wanted, don't give them a negative review for that, because it might be something beyond their control. Because unfortunately, it's a tough choice when you have to pick, like, oh, I'm going to 86 the chicken, or I'm going to sell a slightly subpar frozen chicken, because you need to stay afloat somehow. And more people are going to be pissed about you not having something than.
Yep.
Ultimately it boils down to something we've said before: be kind.
Yeah. That's happened to pretty much every restaurant around us, and that's why we keep going and supporting. And even to the point now where if I have catering contracts or anything, I'm trying to cater to just local restaurants, not chains at all. So support local, be kind, be nice, listen to this music that we're putting in your earpieces. And most of all, just enjoy this journey with us, because we're diving in just as you're diving in. And I think it'll be a lot of fun. So always leave a comment, let us know what you think. And I think the hot takes are going to start rolling. So again, episodes are going to drop normal times. The bracket will drop on Thursdays. The survey will drop on Fridays to give you time to prepare, things like that. And we all have time to listen to music. And if you don't, make time, because it's definitely a great healing property, and just something that really can bring you a lot of joy if you let it come in.
I don't know. Some of these albums are not healing at all.
No, they're not.
But also, if you don't like music, why the hell are you watching this video? So
Oh no, keep watching even if you don't like music.
yeah, I mean, turn the volume off and keep it on repeat. Like I've said before, just when you leave the house, keep us on for your pets or your children or your plants, whoever.
All right, gents, till we meet again.
Thanks, Dan.